HHH Herbert's 100 harem. There's well over 100 active engagement zones in the surrounding 10 spires near the Dauntless at the minimum. Only a fraction of the uncovered organizations are refusing council scanning drones, and it's still giving us more conflict than can be casually deployed to. A lot of recruits are getting their first non-simulated bit of battle in this mess. Herbert notes as he tries to sort out the innumerable reports he's getting from the non-emergency communicator. Why did I underestimate just how corrupt and overcrowded this world is? Jalasi asks. Honestly, I don't know. You should talk with that woman that Basilash picked up. She should know. Haliza is a recovering drug addict whose last few decades of life are a confusing blur at best, Jalasi says before sighing. But she is a centrist native. She should have some knowledge. I apologize. I considered her the lady student in ward and not as someone who was a potential informant. Informant is probably a little far, but anyways, we're all hydrated and fueled up. It's time for some more work, as it appears that some more things on my end need a personal touch. Apparently, one of our assets on a lower level requires a bit of assistance, and honestly, with how slippery he is, I don't want to put one of my more naive men in the firing line. Did you just imply you have a criminal in your employ? Jalasi demands. No, we have a few people performing community service and being given an option to have a legal and proper job afterwards to ensure they don't need to reoffend. Now, if you'll excuse me, Herbert says before he downs the rest of his drink. Please enjoy the drinks. I need to go down low. The warning was not sufficient, Moriarty notes as he is suddenly joined by another. We told you that Axiom eddies were about to expose en masse. How did that translate poorly? Herbert asks as he hops up to stand on the chair next to Moriarty and come up to the same general height. Mostly in that I had no idea there were so many in this area. It's not safe, sane, or normal. Then we need to be unsafe, realistic, and abnormally capable. What are we looking at? Kidnapping storage using stasis, expanded space, and Axiom eddies. We've uncovered a significant branch of a slave trade in this area. I've only gotten a picture of one of the chambers, and there's no less than 30 in this one level alone. I've only had time to get a look into one of them, but I want them all either gone or under my control, Moriarty states. That's a relief. A relief? I thought you were about to ask for something complicated to keep the peace down here. Nice to know that the mission is still nice and simple. You terrify me. I haven't even begun to terrify your Moriarty, or should I say Professor Moriarty, your PhD in mathematics, just passed through, and you're going to be legally informed within the next 36 hours. Really? Yes, really, Professor. Now then, you're going to show me where these eddies are, and I'm going to go to work. All I ask is a guide and a lookout. Are your skills suffice to the task? Yes, Moriarty says in an offended tone. Good. Which way? Herbert asks as he takes off his hat and tucks it in before sweeping off his coat, and suddenly is the silent as he tucks it away into a pouch far too small to hold the whole coat. Moriarty does not comment on this before nodding into the distance, and his antlers start to glow before space inverts, and he's half a kilometer away and walking at a stately pace along the edge of a building, his shadow having the silent in it. At his nod, the silent vanishes, and a few heartbeats later there is an explosion as Herbert clearly finds something he doesn't like and starts using the more aggressive parts of his arsenal. Dust shakes off the side of the building, and light flashes through the cracks in the curtains before the axiom in the area twists and distorts as whatever Herbert is doing is playing merry hell with everything's everything. They've shaken the whole of Centris, with the full approval of the Council, with the support of the Tri-Tite Lady. Moriarty muses as his ears flicker to the sounds of panicky and fearful screams. He adjusts his suit a touch as he continues to sense the axiom shift twist, and there's a massive series of teleportations. He can recognize the exact pattern. Whatever was just teleported out is going to go to the same place that Moriarty himself does, meaning a wide-open area with bright light and numerous guns pointed at the landing area, some automated, most held by soldiers. The only way I'm getting away from these people is if they let me leave, and they will never do that if they think I'm ever going to be a threat. He muses as he guesses that things are mostly wrapped up. He looks behind himself to see the silent already there. Isn't that right? There is a nod. Not even hiding it. How terrifying, he notes. This way to the next one. He doesn't know what's in this hidden area, and as he directs the silent into it, he muses further. The leash they have him on isn't onerous, but it is securely fastened. They pay him well, and simply want him to use his talents. There is purpose and potency here, strength and direction. Is it one he can live with, however? They won't let a threat go, but someone who's thoroughly convinced that being a threat to them is a bad idea will likely be allowed to walk away. 4.5 years. That's how much more time there is in his contract with the Undaunted. However, he has no delusions that if he hasn't impressed them, or at least convinced them to let him go, then the only freedom he'll taste is perhaps a half-breath before he's tackled to the ground by an officer with a warrant. Perhaps even that undaunted officer on loan to the police. Mr. Barnabas. 5 years, a fraction of time to the galaxy at large, not even a full blink of the eye in the lifespan of most people. But more than time enough to make permanent impressions on someone and to thoroughly convince them one way or another. I doubt it's deliberate, but was it? He asks as the silent returns. The tilt of the head from side to side indicates that the silent is in fact listening to him every step of the way and does indeed have an opinion. Not deliberate, but something you're taking rampant advantage of? He asks, and the silent nods. I see. Well played. This way, please. He says, teleporting away, and knowing he's got his shadow right behind him, he walks to the edge of the next roof. I hope you don't mind that I'm prioritizing the ones that concern me the most. These 3 have sparked up some hostilities I'm far from comfortable with. I've been trying to create an equilibrium on this level, and all 3 of these stashes are massive obstacles to such. Then the silent is gone, and Moriarty is left alone with his thoughts. For about 2 seconds before one of them suddenly erupts into a pillar of plasma energy, and he can see a faint blur that is the silent somehow dodging a plasma explosion from inside it before going to the next one. Well, that explains why they were so insistent on protecting that stash in particular, Moriarty notes. I hate it when I don't have things to work with. Don't you agree, Detective? Despite his calling out her being there, she still presses the weapon into the back of his head. Could you do that a little higher up? You're right on an implant, and it's distinctly uncomfortable. The gun is instead lowered so it's in a position to decapitate him if the trigger is pulled. I do hope you're going to decide what to do quickly before my deadly little friend returns. He's occupied with the munition stores for now, but won't be for long. Who are you working for? Really? She demands behind him, and he smirks. He knew someone was trying to track him, someone who was shameless in showing up as any number of species, but had a little quirk where they tended to pat around their thigh as if to reassure themselves of a weapon present. Always in the same way, always just before they began to approach someone to talk to them or follow them. Really? Well, to be quite honest, it's my violent little friend. They're my direct superior, and they're currently working with the council to clean out Axiom Eddies. Apparently, something has them spooked and upset, and their answer is a little on the heavy-handed side for my taste. And you expect me to believe that you, the man who's wormed his way into a dozen different criminal gangs and manipulated them for your own sick amusement, is employed by some higher power? That all the lies, theft, and spying I've seen you perform isn't even your idea? No, I'd rather be in a higher tier, to be honest. At least above the 100th level. Level 137 sounds more pleasant. Plenty of natural light close to the top 50 without being obvious and just below the lowest level where the real police funds end up, meaning I'd be right in the blind spot, he says with a sigh before turning back. Oh, that's cute. I don't even get to see your real face now? Now that you have me at gunpoint? No, she says and then pauses. How about now that my employer has a gun to you? Moriarty asks before turning around entirely. He leans forward against the muzzle of the laser pistol and smirks. Don't you just hate it when people have friends? It makes things so much more complicated than they have to be. The silent gives him a warning look. But I digress. I'm afraid I'm on the job at the moment, Detective, and can't afford to entertain you. So if you'd be so kind as to pardon me, I do need to take my leave now. I must show my employer here where the next most dangerous eddy is located. He leans back and away from her before gesturing a ways away and then charging up another teleport. No shot goes off as he makes a deliberately slow teleport, and when he arrives on the distant rooftop, the Silent is there wagging a disapproving finger at him. What? Me? Oh heavens no! I'm as innocent as a babe bounding in freshly fallen snow, he says, and the body language of the Silent conveys all his incredulity at a statement like that. Now then, we have a great deal more to go through before this level is secure again. There was as balance when everyone could delude themselves that they were in charge and only a moment away from taking over if they just brought out their hidden stashes. However, now that everyone's exposed, there will be death if we don't contain it, he says, fully aware the detective is approaching and listening. Ma'am, this is a private conversation. Now then, to work. Otherwise, there's no telling what happens next, Moriarty states before indicating the exact buildings, and the Silent vanishes. There is the sound of violence in short order. A conspiracy in every corner, and it's so prevalent that it's on the resumes. How has Centrus not collapsed into its own absurdity by this point? Jalasi is complaining as Herbert returns, likely due to the fact that it's buoying up the system as much as anything else. I think of it more like a funny tradition and a result of people wanting to band together, he says. And what were you up to? As I said earlier, we have some assets that are in the midst of community service. One of them called for backup and directed me to no less than 30 separate eddies. The vast majority of them were filled with kidnapping victims, munitions, and in one particularly deranged case, a hybridization of the two. How do you hybridize a kidnapping victim and a weapon? By disconnecting a major portion of a synthetic citizen's body from their control and repurposing it as a combat walker, not under their own control. It took the term human shield to a level I'm rather uncomfortable with. Yes, I imagine it would. What happened to the victim? She's currently in recovery on the Dauntless, and Herbert answered before his emergency communicator goes off. Jameson. He listens for a moment before nodding. Excuse me, ladies, I need to get back to it. More fires to put out. Potentially, literally.